Senator Husbands.
Thank you very much, Mr. Acting Deputy President. I rise in support of this bill. I have a few comments to make, and I want to also make a few remarks about education. To repeat some of what I've said, with respect, Mr. Acting Deputy President, but in the spirit of the times and the national debate that is taking place on issues relating to education, I think it is necessary. Before doing that, however, I, like Senator Fraser, want to compliment honorable senators for the fine quality of the presentations that we have heard over these 2 days and a piece. Senator Jepta Inks, my colleague here, I thought gave a very fine exposition and historical background into how we have reached this point. And it was clear from his presentation the nature of the challenges we face and what we need to do to get out of that position. Likewise, Senator Watson, Senator Haynes, and Senator Adams also made some very good presentations. And there is, to my mind, a very high level of debate, which I hope I can sustain in the 2 hours allocated to me. Now, but at the same time, I want to make a few comments on some of what other senators have said. And I want to enter this debate about and I enter it speaking purely from a personal point of view. The views I will express are purely my views. Speaking about the nature of the Senate and the discussion about reform of the Senate. Senator Watson raised this debate. It was extended by Senator Fraser in his presentation not long ago. But one of the things I would say to both senators is be careful what you ask for. Because if you're asking for reform in this body, one of the possible reforms is the total elimination of the post of independent senator and turning this chamber into a fully elected body. Because I made the point in a previous debate, and I repeat it, that we nominated people cannot and should not see our role as standing in the way of legislation which has been discussed and duly adopted by people who are elected. A simple solution for this problem is if you want the elected people are held in check by one, the people out there who will have their say quite shortly, and they're held in check by the law courts. Anybody else who aspires to hold elected people, whether they're from whatever party, in check, should try putting on a pair of shoes come after March 5th and walking around and knocking on some doors. I say this because I recognize, not here, but I recognize a growing tendency in this country for persons to see themselves as apart from politicians, and that politicians are a breed that ought to be kept in check But they appoint unto themselves the authority to keep politicians in check. If you want to keep politicians in check, go and study law and become a judge. Or put on a pair of shoes and a jeans and a t-shirt, red or yellow or orange or whatever color, and go and knock on some doors, and when the people open the door, say, I would like your vote. It is quite clear to me that as soon as you put the issue of Senate reform on the table, one possibility, and the first possibility that comes to mind, is to eliminate the position of independent senator. I also want to compliment Senator Haynes for her speech. Over the years, I have attempted to make a similar speech. And notice I said attempted. But because I have a partisan political bias, it has been difficult for me to articulate it, and I certainly don't command the language and so on that she displayed here yesterday. But essentially, I have been, whenever I get the opportunity to talk to young people in schools or wherever, I have been saying to them that they are part of the most successful generation of this country. And when I look around, Senator Haynes gave all the examples. In sport, we have never in this country, let's step back from sport, we have never in this country had an entertainer as successful, despite all the talk, as successful as the current corporate entertainers, including, beginning with, the much talked about Rihanna. Never. Or sporting accomplishments. Not just in cricket. And we have this thing in the Caribbean, you know, to talk about the decline of cricket. Well, cricket has declined. But so many other sports have risen. Athletics, for example, Usain Bolt, have risen to put this region and this country, all of the talk. We have never yet had a gold medalist, world championship gold medalist until Ryan Bradford. Or young men and women in the Barbados Coast Guard who have put their lives on the line for the last 3 years to rescue people in Dominica and throughout the region. In academics, I've said on the floor of this house already, this chamber already, that we have more Barbados scholars every year than we have money to support them. Every year, I don't want to tell tales out of school, but every year in the Ministry of Education, it is a headache to shuffle the few dollars. And I hope the press is not listening to this part. Some of the young people get locked out of there, think we don't have, it's a good position to be in. To notice that you have so many young people excelling that we have to scramble to find the money. And I'll tell you, the last crop, the Barbados Advocate did something. I don't know how many people read the Barbados Advocate nowadays, but I was fortunate to come across that particular series of the daily paper, where they invited these young people who had won the Barbados Scholarship to comment about their life and their achievements. Mr. Acting Deputy President, reading those testimonies of those young people, it was so heartwarming for me. These young people, and to think that the winning a Barbados Scholarship was not the pinnacle of their achievement. That was only icing on the cake. All of these young people, 50 or 40 something of them, were all successful in several areas of endeavor. There was one young lady who had won international dance competitions, a young man who was dyslexic and started a charity for people with dyslexia. There were young people there who come clearly, the way the articles were written, very well written, came from single parent homes with mothers or fathers who were struggling. And the amount of voluntary work that these young people had done, it was really something else. But whenever I get the chance to make this point, you know, people always say, well, he's a damn and he's trying to thing, and they interpret my comments about this as saying that since 2008. No, it has, I'm talking about a generation of young people. And we cannot allow in this country, a few criminals who may be in schools. And you know anything about these criminals? These young people, a lot of the deviant young people in school and wherever, they are being sponsored, supported, and armed by adults. By adults. The drug pushers and these people are not teenagers, by adults who are grooming them for a life of crime. And our interventions, I think, must take that into consideration. I also want to comment on the contribution made by Senator Adams. Always very well researched and so on. I want to disagree with him on 2 points. The first one is on the issue of decentralizing the educational system, particularly at the secondary level. I think we have in Barbados both local autonomy, some local autonomy, and some central control, which is the best of both worlds. The thing about the centralization from the Ministry of Education is to ensure certain standards, that every student entering a secondary school will be educated at a certain standard. And the best way of achieving that, in my view, is to have some level of central control. Now, there is a lot of devolution, because all of these secondary schools have boards and do a lot of local stuff. But we have to have national standards in education that are, or rather, I'm a supporter of national standards in education, which are coordinated, executed, and measured from a central authority. And that central authority in our situation is the Ministry of Education. But I also want to make a few comments. Senator Adams spoke a lot about the common entrance exam. And the Ministry of Education over the years, not only since 2008, but before, has not defended itself well on this issue of the common entrance exam. Senator Adams spoke about that the exam was started in England by some man who was a racist, and I'm not going to comment on that. All I would say is that the common entrance exam that we have today, by the proper name, the Barbados Secondary Schools Entrance Examination, is not the same common entrance exam that I sat 50 years ago. It is not the same thing. And I will spend some time. So when people talk about abolishing the common entrance, I don't think that they appreciate what they're talking about abolishing. This exam, the Barbados Secondary Schools Entrance Exam, is administered by the Caribbean Examinations Council. It's not administered by anybody in England. It is administered by the Caribbean Examinations Council. And the last time I checked, The head or the registrar of the Caribbean Examinations Council was a graduate of College of Paris who grew up in the Vim in St. Peter. And I'm saying that to advance the point, to begin to advance my point, that the common entrance, as we call it, or when I started 50 years ago, we call it the screaming test. The screaming test. It is not what it was then. It is something, it is a completely different object or whatever term it is. Thanks very much. Let me begin. I used to say, when I first left teaching, I used to say repeatedly whenever I got the chance to speak that, oh, I have a profession, and if things go bad, I could always return to teaching. But I've realized since going back to education in 2013 that that is a myth. If I were to go back to education today, I would be lost. I would have to do training all over again. Even the language, and not the substance, even the language that teachers use today is different from when I trained. I have been kept abreast. As you know, I have some intimate contact with schools. I met my wife at Ernestine Teachers College. She was the student of the year. I came at the bottom of the class. And the people asked, well, oh, this girl, oh, this bright girl, what's she doing? But that's by the way.
What's the answer?
I would answer that at the bar. No, but seriously, in all seriousness. So the point I'm making is that I'm kept abreast of these changes in education because that's what we talk about. Education, morning, noon, and night. So I'm kept abreast. I'm fortunate. But in reality, the common entrance exam, as we call it, is the culmination of a series of standardized diagnostic tests which begin in the nursery, at the nursery level. There is at that level, the infant's level, there is a test. Let me get the exact name for you. It is called Basic Skills Assessment, standardized across the system. And in that, remember, we're talking at the very early stages. Not quite nursery, but very early stages. Let me just, on the advice of my advisor, let me consult my advisor. The test at that level is broken down into a variety of skills, competencies that you would expect a 6-year-old to master. Color identification, vocabulary, auditory memory, spatial relationships, alphabet knowledge, picture comprehension, and so on and so forth. And the beauty about this is that when these children are tested at that level, remember the test would have to be very scientifically prepared by the CXC. It is possible, and what the Education Ministry can do is to give each school and each parent a report on their child, which would do a comparison with other children in the school, or do a comparison with what children in the country are doing. What are the weaknesses? They can identify for each child. Now, when I was teaching at Robert Primary School, a lot of people here, don't even know where Robert Primary School was. After I left, they had to close it. A lot of people here don't even know where Robert Boys School was. When I taught at Robert Boys School, this was, something like this was not, I mean, I sat a test and I corrected it. It bore no relation to what the children in the next class were doing, far less the children in the school, far less the children in the nation. And no report of that nature went home to. So then, at the next level, there is the criterion reference test as the children go on. Class 1, a similar diagnostic exam, mathematics and language arts. Later on, they take in science and social studies. But at that stage, and again, a report goes home to the parent, a report comes to the school for those children at age 6, identifying the areas of strengths and the areas of weakness. Remember, I'm saying this is part of a continuum leading up to. There's a diagnostic process leading up to this thing called the Common Entrance Exam, which, remember, is designed by the Caribbean Examinations Council, whose registrar is current registrar is a Bajan from the Women in St. Peter. So the Ministry of Education is in a position to post every parent. Once upon a time, the schools used to distribute the results of these standardized tests. The Ministry of Education now sends to each parent a report on the performance, the strengths and the weaknesses. Each school has such a report. Remember, I said it's diagnostic. CXC and the ministry organizes area meetings for the principals, where they go through in detail the performance of the students. Who is weak in what area? What areas do we need to emphasize? I have here one of these criterion reference tests, a report. And from the time I look at this, I can see that this school, this is a school level report, that this class at this school is weak in all forms of measurement. They have problems with money, they have problems with time, they have problems with mass, they have problems with area. That is the area of weakness. And this report goes to the school, it goes to the parents. Remember I said, coming out of this is a area meeting. So the schools in the north may meet and go through these with CXC, identifying areas of weakness. The point I'm making is how skilled and scientific the delivery of education has become. This common entrance exam business is not the old common entrance exam that Senator Boyce took at Borders 60 years ago. It's not. So, chalk him up. Borders, chalk him up. Remember? My apologies. Chalk him up. My apologies.
You look well for it.
My apologies. But the point I'm making. So then comes the common entrance. And again, after that examination is finished, a report doesn't go to the parents, they could do that. A report goes to the schools again. So each school in Barbados has identified for it the area of strength and weakness that the children have encountered in the common entrance exam. That provides during those periods at the beginning of the term when schools are planning on Teachers Professional Day, that provides opportunities for the staff of an individual school, irrespective of size or location, to see what their students have done and decide what measures they are going to adopt for this year. So this principal here knows from her criterion reference test that these children are weak in measurement, and measurement in all forms. So what activities do we have to share, to participate in, to deal with this issue of measurement? So I took some time out to deal with that because you often still hear people talking about this common entrance exam and not, in my view, fully understanding what it is they're talking about. So when you say you're going to abolish the common, it won't abolishing, you are actually saying, without knowing it, you are saying that they ought to abolish this system that emphasizes diagnostic issues over just teaching and whatever, just doing it the way I did it. Because these approaches were not available when I taught in the primary school system. Now, obviously, over the last 15 to 20 years, the Ministry of Education has been working at this, trying to perfect it, and so on. You know, some of the challenges they have all fogies like me still in the teaching profession. Yes, like I am, still in the profession, who are still not yet willing to adopt and understand and see the significance, who still feel that the strap is the way to teach measurement. Like I was taught, got lashes with a strap with a name. The one I got flogged with was called Joe Goat. Joe Goat got licking your coat. That's how I was taught in the good old days. No, my mouse marked the kid that it didn't work. but I'm making the point that the system that we have in Barbados, the educational system, and this common entrance exam is much more sophisticated and aimed at correcting mistakes. And the challenges, I said some of the challenges are that as more and more teachers actually come into the system as they are, more and more teachers come into the system who would have gone through these approaches as students, there's going to be greater understanding and acceptance. But I think the Ministry of Education, every year there is some innovation aimed at perfecting this system and improving. That is why test scores in the common entrance have been, especially in mathematics, have been on the uptick because of it's not just dedication. Dedication can take us, by the teachers and so on, can take us only so far. But it is approaches like this, modern scientific approaches in the educational system that are significant. This is a good segue, I think, to say a few things about the educational system. As is clear, education devours the largest part of the monies voted here. So we have, and I often say to teachers, and in this current debate that you see with the teachers' unions, at least one of the teachers' unions, this back and forth thing, you know, I say to teachers that there's going to come a day in this country there is going to come a day, and I can see it coming, where parents and other stakeholders, business people and so on, will say, but you have your criterions, reference tests, you have this, you have that, all of you were just appointed, 700 of you were just appointed, you have all these degrees. Nowadays, in the primary school, a PhD is a common thing. You have all of this, you have all of this training, you have all these PhDs, and according to you, the children are no better. You know, I try to explain to teachers, you know, it sounds good, you go up there and talk about the children and this and the next thing, but eventually, because the parents, and this is no fault on the parents, their interest is their children. Their interest is not you. Their interest, like your interest is your children. Their interest is their children. They are interested in the performance of their children. They're not interested in any excuses from you or the Ministry of Education. So when you go to the public saying all of this, eventually that time is coming when the people who support you getting the lion's share of the budget will ask you to account for your performance. It happened in the United States, and as sure as the sun rises in the morning, it is about to happen here in Barbados. And you better be in a position to account, because what some people will do is take the short route and say, we are going to pay you based on the number of common entrance or CXC passes they have. And are you sure you want that? A word to the wise. So, those are only the preliminary points I wanted to make. It has been said, and I have said it, that there is a quiet revolution going on in education in Barbados. Several things lead me to this conclusion. I've mentioned some of them. The development of new and progressive qualitative methods in teaching. The fact that we have, in the last 5 years, and I'm going to make that reference here without any apologies, in the last 5 years, we have empowered teachers in ways that they have not been empowered before. The major complaint was even going back to the days when I was in the union, of the appointment of teachers. We took the big step, and in a 2-year period, appointed 700 teachers. Unprecedented. We took the bold step after almost 50 years and set up the Teachers Services Commission. In these difficult times, we have spent a considerable amount of money upgrading Erdeston Teachers College. I had the pleasure of being present when we opened many of the new lecture rooms, all equipped with the latest in technology, what do you call them, the smart boards, the whatever. Completely revamped the library, provided the latest technology, and also upgraded the qualifications, introduced the Bachelor of Education. We are at the point now where we are training teachers. We always wanted to be at that point. We are at the point now where we have approximately 200 teachers who are currently in training, who will do their training before they go into the classroom. We have been building to that point. and I think we have finally reached it. For those teachers who are university trained but are not professionally qualified, we have expanded the opportunities for them to get their professional qualifications and their professional designation. One speaker mentioned increased training in what I would refer to as the area of special needs. We have done that. A couple of months ago, I was present at the graduation of teachers who were working in concert with the New Brunswick and Canada Department of Education to do a course in autism. We recognize that a lot of the times in the past, and I said this when I spoke at the graduation, a lot of times in the past, teachers, well, the educational system was not equipped to deal with some of the challenges that our young people face, and these challenges are many. So we did not recognize the deficiencies, the genuine deficiencies. Children were sent outside, suspended when they had genuine problems, specialized training in special needs, autism, and all these other areas are being provided for teachers as we speak, so they are better equipped to face the challenges of a modern-day classroom. And that, to my mind, is the first step in revamping this educational system and empowering the teachers. Regrettably, like all the public servants, we have not been able, because of the financial situation, to do anything about salaries. But that is a reality in the time that we live. And again, and again, and again, I have, because of my intimate connection with teaching, I have an interest in increased teacher salaries. It's not something that I'm talking about just off the top of my head. I would benefit also if teachers' salaries were increased. So the first step is that we have empowered teachers throughout the length and breadth of the system. Now, some people see empowerment also in terms of control, and the issue has come up repeatedly about the use of corporal punishment. You know, when I was a young teacher, I meet young men every day who remind me that I shared some lashes when I was a young teacher. But this is 2018. This is 2018. This is 2018. We in 2018 can't be seen to be making a noise with parents and the public generally to bring back corporal punishment. We should be moving as much as possible to eliminate corporal punishment from. You know, one lesson I had, I always remember this young man, very nice young man too, today, family and all that, that I put some corporal punishment on him a couple of times. Yeah, some lashes. And it never seemed, this is when I learned my lesson about discipline. It never seemed to have had any effect on him. Until one day, he wanted to go outside. Or he had the practice of, before the bell rang for lunch, he had his bat and his ball in his hand, ready to go through the door. The day that I stopped him and said, sit there, he cried like a baby. I'm sure that the principal, when he passed, thought that I did this young boy something. All I said to him was, no, you remain there until I tell you to go. From that day, I had him in my control. So it tells you something about the use of corporal punishment. The reality is that some of these children experience such difficult lives that no corporal punishment that the school can mete out is going to mean anything to them in the real world. So that's one little caveat that I've thrown in there. We've spoken a lot about the expansion of nursery education. I said previously, right here in this chamber, that we see this in the ministry on several levels. The most obvious level is that this was an area of weakness for the Barbadian educational system. And let me step back just to say that when we are talking about education in Barbados, when we are discussing the educational system in Barbados, we are discussing it against the background that this educational system has been identified as one of the top educational systems in the entire world. Yes, we have all of these challenges. Yes, there are all of these issues. But bear in mind the context in which we are discussing education when we talk about education in Barbados. So this nursery business, it's relevant on several levels. The first is the one weakness we had remaining in education in Barbados was that there were not enough places at the nursery level to satisfy the international standards and so on. That was one area that we were always weak. In fact, the only area that we were weak. Now, with the expansion of these nursery schools, we are going to be in a position to allow any nursery-age child, any parent with nursery-age children, who wants to have their child in a learning environment to satisfy that requirement. So we are going to be really in the nursery stage, at the early education stage. That's another thing. My wife always tells me, don't say nursery, the term is early childhood education. So I'm learning. So we have been able, we are going to be able, when this program is completed, to satisfy that requirement. But it is also important on another level. And that level is, it is generally internationally accepted. All the recent research has shown that if we capture these children at an early age, they do better academically, emotionally, and in all other aspects in life. They are less likely to be involved in crime, for example. So without saying it, it is even a crime-fighting technique. You don't have to say, I mean, if you're listing crime-fighting techniques, you won't put nursery, early childhood education as one, but all the available data has shown that. Coming back to these young people, these Barbados scholars, over the last 3 or 4 years, we in the ministry have noticed, just by observation, not by any detailed research, but we have noticed that more and more people who come forward and win Barbados scholarships, it is not which primary school you went to, whether you went to a private primary school or public primary school. What we are seeing, more and more of those young people had early childhood interventions. More and more of them. It was so obvious this year. So this expansion in early childhood education is of value in many, many respects. And that is why the government of Barbados has launched this program. One, we satisfy a need, we meet international requirements, and we have a chance to influence. You talk about parenting and so on. You have a chance to influence these young people, these youngsters at an early age, and lessen the chance of deviancy and young people growing up at risk. So this is, I think, a key component in our, and you know, it spreads, so we talk about productivity, we talk about innovation, creativity. the type of environment that these youngsters are experiencing in these early childhood institutions caters, encourages, nurtures creativity and innovation. So it spreads. Now, I don't want to overdo and make it seem as this is the cure-all for every problem we have in Barbados. It can solve the economic problem, it can solve the behavioral. No. But what I'm saying is that they have a better chance in life if they experience early childhood education. And on the point of empowering teachers, the teachers in the early childhood institutions all are specially trained and highly trained to the bachelor's and master's level. Government has invested a lot of money working in conjunction with an American university in order to provide specialized training in these areas. We've gone through the third cohort of teachers who have been trained. The other thing is that there have been probably 99.9% female. We want more men in early childhood education. The opportunities for training are there. And obviously, the salary is a better salary than would be obtained in several other areas of the government service or the economy generally. So that is working. And this is, again, we are not stabbing in the dark. This is all part, the empowering of teachers, the expansion of Erdiston, the training, the early childhood. It is all part, I know, of a coordinated effort to improve various aspects and reform various aspects in the economy. In energy, Senator Boyce will talk about the changes that have occurred there. And actually, there is a link to education and energy. Some of our schools, I had the pleasure a couple of months ago, just before Christmas, in visiting a number of schools where the schools switched on the photovoltaic system. We have schools in Barbados now, some of the only schools in the Caribbean like that generate 100% of their electricity needs right there at the school. So this is ideal for schools because they have these roofs, these expansive roofs that encourage this kind of thing. And through the Division of Energy and the Division of Energy with energetic staff, we have been able in education to benefit tremendously. And I hope that this year that program will continue and especially hit the secondary schools in a much grander way so that we can make a significant dent in the cost to government of and you know that these systems become very important learning tools. Observant and innovative teachers and principals have been using these systems not only to generate for the generation of electricity, but also to teach children issues of conservation and so on and so forth, and some physics and mathematics and those areas that gave me so much trouble at school. So I've said a lot in the past about the Caribbean Vocational Qualification. And you've heard at least two other senators mention this. Again, what we are attempting to do, we know that many young people leave school without any certification. Sometimes I think that that argument is oversold. Not that you should leave school after all these years at school, you should leave school without certification. But in Barbados, we have the vast majority of our people may leave school, or who leave school without certification, leave school but are extremely trainable. That is a very important distinction. I always remember when Intel was leaving Barbados, or one of these companies down, I remember reading the manager making that point about Barbados, that the issue is not lack of certification. The issue really is that the average Barbadian secondary school leaver is at a very high level in comprehension, understanding, creativity, what he saw ordinary people do, make adjustments to the production line that he thought only engineers could do. That is the challenge we have. But it is undeniable that certification is important, especially if you are going to leave Barbados and seek employment elsewhere in one of these major countries or in the region or wherever. So the CVQ program helps to satisfy that need. We can get, because it is skill-based, because a lot of it depends on experience, internships, hands-on learning, and so on and so forth, more and more people can leave school in a variety of areas. And when we talk about CVQs, we're not only talking about school leavers. The Ministry of Labor, Minister of Labor, can tell you about the number of people, workers, that have been certified. I had the pleasure of attending one of the graduations to see the number of people in their 40s and 50s who've never had, who left school without any certificates or without any fancy anything, but had a skill. Yes, about 3,000 of them, but had a skill which they may have acquired at work and so on and so forth, but were able to go back and have that skill certified. And now they have a piece of paper in their hands that says they can take that, not just what they knew on the job, but this piece of paper means a lot in Barbados and at least throughout the Caribbean in the area of providing employment. So it is a two-pronged thing. We have it in the schools, supervised by CXC again, and we also have it in the workplaces. I know one business place, Nature Care, the manager and owner speaks highly because he has taken advantage, and a lot of this is government money, funding agency money. It didn't cost him tremendously, but these are funds that were made available through Skills for the Future program that allowed him to now certify all of his staff in all the areas that they had mastered. So is that, and is also school-based. So the CVQ program is important again in that respect. And you don't say that the CVQ program is a crime-fighting tool, but what we know is that if people leave school with skills that are marketable in Barbados or throughout the region, again, they're less likely to be at risk or be involved in deviant behavior.
Honorable member, you have 7 minutes more.
Thanks very much, Mr. President. So that's the CVQ. I think it is necessary for me, before I sit, to say something about students at risk. It is necessary to say something about students at risk because of what has occurred in the last couple of weeks. And again, you have to put this in perspective. For example, it is well known that at St. Leonard's Boys recently, there was an incident. And we have this tendency now with WhatsApp and Facebook to spread everything around. People take pictures and circulate. Issues involving children, even if they're criminal issues, are to be dealt with in a certain way. Adults who take advantage of children by publicizing incidents. I'm not saying that there are incidents that occurred, they're not making up these things, but what is the benefit of putting on WhatsApp, standing up in the bus stand and see two young girls fighting, two young students fighting? What is the benefit to you to take that and circulate it all over? And you know, recently, there was one incident, in fact, an alleged incident on Facebook. And you know how I knew about it? Two friends, one from New York and one from London, sent me the video of something that is supposed to have happened in Barbados. And there's this man on the thing speaking, and they seem to do it with such glee. People seem to enjoy the misfortune or the bad behavior of our young people. I mean, I support the view. I heard the Minister of Education express the view that, look, we're going to have to start taking action against people who stay by the side, record these things with the cameras, and then start to circulate it all. Why? Now, this is not to say, this is not to hide anything or to cover up things. Issues involving, here you have two young ladies from some school involved in a fight in the bus stand. They're there in the uniforms, you can see their faces clearly. And that, once you send that around, that is there forever. That is there forever. They can turn up at a job interview 5 years from now, and they never get the job, and they don't know why, because somebody saw that from some. Why? Contact the schools. Go to the school the next day, identify them. Let them be suitably punished. But we have done, and the incident at St. Leonard's, we can allow 3 or 4 vagabonds. When I think of St. Leonard's Boys' School, I think of St. Leonard's Boys' School Choir. And Spanish. That's what I think of. 4 or a couple of vagabonds can't erase that. Last Education Month in October, down at Lime Grove, a young boy from St. Leonard's School sung a classical piece in Italian. Now, I don't even know if he knew what he was singing. He could have been singing, shoot me, or something. But this thing was of such a high standard, and it's the teacher who made that possible. That's why I say to the unions, spend some time telling the public that it is teachers who make these things possible. We have, and I've said here, I've spoken about Aganar, children at risk, what we've done in that area. We've just reopened at the Nichols Center, and so on and so forth, to deal with this issue of deviancy amongst our young people. And we need, you know, the other thing, people say there's a cookie cutter solution for everything. People say, oh, you need metal detectors. You need more. Do you know that some of these young people who have been involved in some of these acts have been going to counseling? So you see, you need more counseling. Some of these young people have been going to counseling, a variety of counselors, for the last, from primary school.
The member would wish to be winding up.
From primary school. So any young person in Barbados who needs an intervention, despite the financial challenges and so on, that intervention is available. That's the point I want to leave with you. Mr. President, I want to thank you tremendously for this opportunity, and I want to give my fullest support to this bill this morning. Thanks very much.